Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Subculture Live. I am your host, Sammy Joe, and tonight we have a special guest. It's Gary McClain, aka DJ Ruckus. And just to let you guys know, these are my notes for tonight. Yeah, I have no notes because tonight is going to be all on the fly. Gary and I have some history, and I follow him on social media, and we have a lot of catching up to do. We typically run into each other a few times a year in the bodybuilding circuit, but we didn't get an opportunity to do that last year. So we definitely have some catching up to do. He's such a positive influence on social media and amongst his peers. He's a father, personal trainer, nutritionist, DJ, and he's going to kind of talk about how he's been able to merge all of this together to do what he loves and literally make a career out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. And I'm also joined with Alan Kay today. He is going to be co-hosting. So this is an opportunity for Alan to get to know Gary as well. I feel weird not saying DJ Ruckus. So here we go. Let me go ahead and bring both of them in. There we go. Hello, how are you tonight?
What's up? Good, how are you? Hello, everyone.
So what a year for you. We're going to get more into that later. But I want to say it's been a while since we've had a chance to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been over a year.
I think, it was probably the Tampa show that we were both working.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that has been a while.
So just to give everybody a little bit of history, when I first kind of thought up this idea that I wanted to live stream bodybuilding shows, Gary was one of the first people I ran this idea by, and I can distinctly remember standing in the lobby of the Daytona Beach Classic, telling you this idea I had and showing you my logo and getting your opinion on if it was like a cool graphic, and you're like, oh no, I think you should change this and maybe add that, and I was like, oh yeah. But you
I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah, like tell me, do you remember what you told me back then?
Yeah, I do. I remember when you brought it out and you talked about it, I remember thinking to myself, like, this is cool because a lot of people don't have that kind of urge to want to do something like that. And I'm very encouraging. I always tell people to follow like follow your dreams, follow your path, and make it your own without any regards, So when you showed me the logo, I think the only thing I said was make one of the letters a little bigger to offset it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I have a graffiti background, so the font was like perfect. I was like, yeah, I can work with this. So
yeah, and I was super scared and nervous to do this because nobody else was really doing it, and I was like, what if I fail, right? And you were like, you know what? When you're the OG, when you're the original, like, it's okay because by the time you get a hold of what's going on, you're going to be like that far ahead of everyone that comes in behind you.
And look where you're at.
And I kind of feel like that's, yeah. So, but thank you
you've
again.
Killed it. And we didn't even talk about the time you go on the shows. And then next thing you know, you're live streaming shows and all that. And that was like, no one was doing that either. So now it's a full-blown thing. And everywhere you go, somebody's live streaming the show.
Yeah. Exactly. Now it's mainstream. Everyone's doing it.
Yeah.
Man. So Gary is the inspiration for this show, and now we get to go full circle, episode 40, and now I get to be a part of this full circle. That's awesome. I am very flattered. That is awesome. For you, Gary, do a lot of people come to you with like those kind of creative ideas to kind of connect with the community? Like, how is that for you with regards to those ideas, or just something that's different for this industry?
Yeah, actually, a lot of people do, man, because so many people that have followed me or known me for so long, they've always known, like, you just go to the beat of your own drum. And I'm like, that, why not, And so the fact that I've been able to be successful doing a lot of these things and kind of showing it along the way, people are like, okay, well, he's doing it, so I can trust his word and see if it's worth me even trying. And I'm not an expert at everything, but I do know when it comes to being passionate about something and you can visualize something, the only thing you can do is get better at it along the way because you're passionate about it. So if you fail, you'll tweak things and come back and make it work and make it better. and then you become this thing with it. And I mean, it's just like Sammy, like this whole thing blossomed to what it is now. You know, between doing live streams, a YouTube channel. You know, you're kind of known for that. Now you go to these shows like, oh, Sammy's here. You know what I mean? So you automatically know you're gonna have good quality. You can pay for the shows when it's time. And I mean, just like her setup and backdrop in this thing in itself. I mean, I'm on a couch. She's got a whole thing going on here. So yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Real quick though, like, you know, you bring up one interesting point that I genuinely love speaking about. I had a guest on my podcast a while ago, and he's a music producer, and he said something along the lines of, you know, if you really love something, you're gonna fail at it. You're gonna fail at it hard, and then it's at that point at which your ego gets challenged, where if you love it enough and where it's a passion, where you're gonna not even care about your ego getting bursted, you're gonna still pursue it regardless. But if you don't have a passion for it, you're going to fail. And you see that all the time where people pursue things that they say they're passionate about, but the actions and the results speak very clearly on the fact that it wasn't anything to be passionate about. It was probably someone else's inspiration. So I love the fact that you drew in the fact where, hey, just passionate about it, keep making adjustments, keep making adjustments, keep making adjustments. And I feel like anybody that's ever been in the bodybuilding community, especially when it comes to like getting diet plans, right? You don't follow that thing, black and white. No. You find a way to tweak it to your liking, to your habits,
needs.
your
That's
style.
right.
So I love the fact that you brought it up that way, man.
Well, and I'll be honest, man. I think for myself, my vision, you know, I go back to my childhood a lot when I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, because when you're a kid, you there's no barriers, there's no boundaries, and the things you do when you're a kid that are fun and exciting are part of your character and like who you are. So when you stay true to that as you become an adult, the same things you did as a kid, you would sit there and build. I remember building race car tracks for hours until I got it like I wanted it. You know what I mean? And it didn't bother me, but I knew at some point I'd figure it out. So now when you get to the adult world and you're doing your thing, you're like, all right, well, I really like this. So I'm going to build on this and build on this. And then you get bits and pieces from different places. You might go somewhere and get inspired by another thing. So you add on to it. And then 10 years later, you got this whole thing going on. And you're like, oh, I made it. I'm here, So, and
yeah.
we can elaborate more on that, I don't want to
right.
blow
Well,
thing
no,
up here.
no, that totally opens up my next question. So, obviously, okay, for those who don't know, you're a competitive bodybuilder, right?
Yeah.
And not men's physique, not classic bodybuilder. So
Right.
at what point were you able to take your passions, things that you love, and realize that you could merge them together? Because that was kind of the highlight of today's episode, was just kind of, you've found a way to successfully take things that you love and make a career out of it, or at least a very lucrative hobby out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was that point, and how did that come about?
So I'll go back maybe around like 2014, I think it was.
Okay.
We were working with Quest Nutrition at the time, me and my wife.
Okay.
And we went to the Arnold that year.
Mm-hmm.
And being at the Arnold, it kind of gave me this insight, like being at the expo, because expos, everyone's ever been to the Arnold, it's massive.
Yes.
And you walk around this place and there's people everywhere and there's things going on. Well, at the booth we were at, we had a setup for turntables, but they forgot to bring the hookups for everything. So I was like, well, I'll just play this from my mixes from my phone that I already had. And so now we have this music going on, and the girls would jump up on the stage and act like they were DJing with the music playing. So people came over and thought like there was a real show going on. And I said, this is crazy. Like, all these people come over to see them DJ thinking that, it's real. But if this was really going on,
right,
there's a lot to be done here.
Right.
So I said, all right, well, now it's time to get to work and figure this thing out, right? So prior to that, I've been DJing for forever. I started DJing in high school in '98. And that was just in the bedroom, just practicing, learning how to cut and do all the things that comes with DJing. But that was easy for me because I played drums. I was a percussionist from the age of 9, and then I marched all the way through high school and then at UF.
Oh,
So
wow. Go
yeah,
Gators.
so having this music background was a big deal for me, and kind of overlapping the two, DJing is kind of like drumming. So in that world, I was like, all right, well, once I'm done with marching band and everything, like there was nowhere else to go. So I
Mm-hmm.
said, I got to figure this thing out and keep myself moving. So I was DJing the clubs and all these type of things. But once I was finished with marching band, I started bodybuilding and competing. And I've always been in love with that. But I was lifting and training in high school. I was on the weightlifting team in high school. So now I have these two things that are like really locking my life together. And my education was in exercise phys, applied physiology, kinesiology. So I kind of took a different route than most. I did 2 years of schooling, well, 4 years of schooling, but I kind of spread it out over a long period of time. So it was technically 2 years on paper. But my whole purpose was, let me take what I want. I don't want to go by a curriculum. I just don't believe in that. That's just me. So I said, whatever. So I had a professor, my AP 1 and 2, and she was like, after I finished her class, she was like, well, what do you plan on doing after this? So I told her, and she was like, listen, if I were you, I would go and get certified as a trainer and then take the next 2 years and go and study from the best around the country instead of going to the university. She said, you're going to have to get certified anyways. So she's like, save 20 grand. I was like, oh, I like this idea.
Right.
So that's what I did. So those 2 years led me to a whole new platform of being a trainer and nutrition. And at the same time, I'm bodybuilding. So I'm like, okay, this is brewing over here and I'm DJing over here. So I'm like, all right, these two worlds are here and I can really do something with both of them, but I need both of them to work together.
Right.
Well, I'm a dancer. I pop, right? Pop.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Okay.
So that whole thing was in the hip hop world. I used to go to dance battles and all these things. So I thought, man, maybe if I can DJ my own sets and dance and maybe pose and do all that, then this whole thing can come together at some point. Fast forward to 2018, and Tony Curtis out of Lake City, he does a show called the Monster Classic.
Yes.
And he's one of the judges. He's a Central Florida, North Florida chairman. He called me and was like, hey, I need you to come DJ my show. And another DJ named DJ Nelson, who kind of started this whole thing with DJing shows,
Right.
a good friend of mine. Yeah, he brought me on and was like, hey, I need help. So I was like, all right, cool. So now I'm walking into this arena of like, I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I've been seeing him do it. So I'm like, all right, it must have some quality to it.
Right.
So I went ahead and did that show, and DJing that show on stage, but not competing, blew the doors off for me. I was like, this is it. This is the thing. Right. So I'm like, okay.
I have to say, because I do the same thing when I am at an event as a bodybuilder, not competing, you're still getting all those positive vibes, all that energy. You're literally soaking it in. But go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, that kind of energy just made me think of like, where can this go? And now all roads connect. But I never thought for years, I was like, this will never line up together. There's no way. Like there's no way these worlds can collide. So the fact that these promoters started wanting DJs at the show, it helped because I compete. So they're like, well, the format of the show.
Oh.
So I'm like, yeah, this is easy.
Yes.
So now I lay the music out. I do this, I do that. And then the phone starts going off. Everybody wants to, come here.
Well, and
All
I
right,
have
cool.
I have to add this, and you have a whole different level of respect for the individuals and their music. Like, you know how important that music plays at the right time for that athlete.
That's right.
And
I'm a big fan of posing. I love to pose. My posing routines are always off the charts. I've won best poser many times. So when it comes to music, I've always cut my own music for shows. So I build my own routines. I'm a dancer. So all these things are just like flowing. And so even with competitors, I edit music for them for their shows. So when I'm up there and you come out and I've got all your music laid out and I hit play, you don't have to worry about a thing. You don't have to worry about a CD messing up or this or that, because I've learned to check files and make sure they're not corrupt along the way, because I've had that happen before.
Oh God.
Yeah. And it looks bad on me because it looks like it's coming from me, but I'm like, this is what they gave me.
All right.
So
oh yeah.
So that gave me time to troubleshoot and figure out where I need to make these adjustments. So I've done that over the years now. And so long story short, with when I got to, the Tony show, did the Monster, then I did a few other shows along the way. I now have a curated group that I pretty much work with throughout the state. And I've done a few guest posings along with it. So, it comes in there like, hey, can you guest pose too while you're here? Sure. So I never thought, but it's here.
Yeah, two things I wanted to bring up here. First of all, it sounds like your entire journey is a glorified story of pass me the ox. You know what I mean? Like those memes are just like pass me the ox, like, oh crap, that's like a lot of responsibility.
That's right.
It seems like you just took that up to another level. Now everybody's just giving you their ox score, like, yo, you played something. Right?
Yeah. And then I feel like that's a big deal, because in this game, we put a lot of time and effort into preps and doing all these things. So when I can provide something to take the edge off, I'm willing to take that responsibility and make it work for everyone. So,
and you know what? And that is the best explanation from someone that I'm about to pass the ox to. Like, that's the mindset. Like, yo, you're going to control the music here. Like, I got everybody. I got them to take the edge off. Like, yes, that's exactly what I want, right?
That's right.
And the second thing, since you are making all this great music, I think what I would appreciate is if you could make like a great playlist, a workout playlist for maybe that you can share for us at the Subculture Live. Like, if you're this great DJ that we're all speaking of, I need to know, and I need to figure out what it is that's so great about DJ Ruckus that makes DJ Ruckus, DJ Ruckus. You know what I mean? So I would appreciate that for sure.
Yeah. Well, so that's something that I've wanted to do for a long time, and kind of today I was able to put out some information on my social media, letting everyone know what my kind of new journey is. I wasn't able to really do much with recording mixes and whatnot over the years, because I'm a personal trainer, and I ran a personal training department for a very long time, which I'm still doing, but I'm at a different gym now. And but during that time, it took up so much of my time, along with competing and then DJing events that aren't shows. I'm still doing weddings and parties and different things like that. So
divorce parties.
What's that? Yeah. We talked about that, right? See,
Yeah,
another little idea.
Whoa, wait, what? You DJ'd a divorce party?
Yeah,
oh my God!
I had
That's
this
a thing?
idea.
Oh my God! This is our society today, huh? Oh my God! I can't believe.
You know what? Look, I'm all about filling voids. So
Crash the
yeah.
I'm an opportunist.
One man's alimony is another man's DJ opportunity.
That's right. I got y'all locked in. And listen, it can be men, it can be women. You never know what it's going to be. So,
oh my God. I've heard it all, guys. I've heard it all.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyhow, the day-to-day just hasn't really given me the time. So now I'm at a point where I have a little more time. And I've been setting up my DJ home setup in a new location. And my plan is to do a full backdrop, kind of like Sammy looks, but with turntables in front of him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I would like to do more, whether it's live streaming. I want to record and make some mixes. I do have a SoundCloud, which is not really active. I haven't done much on it in a year. So once I get that back going, then I'll put information out and links out for people to grab stuff. And then it kind of opens up a whole new avenue. And that's another part, because as a DJ, once people start hearing your mixes and things, they start calling more and more and more. And I wasn't ready to take on that responsibility at the time. So now being in the position I'm in and running this training program at this gym I'm at now, I have a little more time and control of my day, because I'm not training as many clients all day. I have a little more downtime to do other things and other work and help the trainers get their stuff together and, give them clients. So I'm looking forward to that time.
Nice. I have to say, we collaborated when I started doing the live stream, and I have about 2 hours of your mixes. Do you remember that?
That's right.
Yeah.
See, so she has exclusives.
Yeah, I do.
Exclusives, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely want to get my hands on one of those now, especially the mix that you played at the divorce party. Like, I'm so curious what songs are on a divorce party playlist. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not over this, guys. I'm still not.
Most times it's going to be women and they get with their girls, and it's going to be single ladies. It's going to be Scrubs by TLC. You know what I mean? To the left with Beyonce.
Oh my God.
Genuine. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Genuine Pony. That's right. Yep. Hey, and you never know. It's funny because when you do these type things, you never know what the next thing leads to. You got a guy here with muscles playing music. I'm like, hey, take your shirt off. I'm like, wait. It's not my party.
But did you? Hold up. Is there a price for that, DJ? No.
That's all you get.
Yeah, no, but the sleeves come off.
That's it. Your gun show, we're good. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It is so funny.
So I was on your Instagram, right? And I noticed that you are recovering from 2 big injuries, or 1 big injury that just happens to happen in 2 places. Like, is there any way you can go into that? Because that was really nuts for me to just skim over, to be honest.
Sure. Yeah. And I noticed you followed me today. So sure, you walk in there and you're like, what's all this,
Yeah, that's the first thing I saw. I was like, hey, he started following you, and I saw him like, and I see these like tears. I'm like, oh my God, what, he's going through that? Yeah. Can you go into that? I'd love to hear about it.
So I was so this was last year in April 26th was my daughter's. It was her 5th birthday. We were down in South Florida, and we're at a trampoline park. And I've been in trampoline parks with them before, so we get there 5 minutes or so, kind of jumping around, warming up, and I went to go run and jump into one of those big air filled bags. You jump off the thing and land in it. So as I ran to jump and I landed, the floor buckled underneath me and it broke basically. And I felt like I should have gone down through the floor. And instead of going through the floor, the next thing in line to take the impact, it was my patellar tendons. So both patellar tendons ruptured. And when they ruptured, I didn't even know what happened. I didn't feel any pain necessarily, but I knew something was wrong. And so ambulance came, paramedics came, and the firefighters took, 15 minutes to get me out of this thing because at the time I was like 240.
Oh my God.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. So they're like, how are we going to get you out of this thing? Because it's moving around, it's just filled with air. And they eventually figured it out. It took 8 people to get me out of this thing. We get on the gurney, we go to the hospital emergency room, and I'm optimistic, right? So I'm like, okay, maybe I dislocated my knees. Let me leave it at that. I didn't want to accept anything worse. Well, they go and do x-rays and all this stuff, and lady comes back, the doctor, and she says, I'm sorry to inform you, but both of your patellar tendons are clean ruptured. And I was just mind blown because at that point I knew my background. I know what patellar tendon is and what it's capable of, like what its function is. So I knew I was out of commission for a long time. So I immediately broke down. I was crying. I lost it in the emergency room. And they're trying to tell me, hey, look, it's going to be okay. It's going to be a long recovery, but you can get through it with your background, this and that and the other. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, my life just stops now. I have, at the time, so you look at the end of April, the way DJ schedules work, we book out, 8, 9, 10 months in advance. So I got over 30 gigs on the books for next like 5, 6 months. I got clients and stuff that rely on me. My kids rely on me, my family, my wife. And at this point, it's like everything just stops. So my first question is, can I go back to Gainesville? Because I wanted to come here and get surgery and everything done through some of the surgeons at UF that work with athletes. I'm an athlete, so I want the best of the best. Well, they're like, you can't leave here. If you leave here, it's going to take you 7 to 10 days to get in with someone up there. And your patellar tendon is going to shrink. And we're not going to be able to stretch it out and pull it back in to be able to reattach it. So we got to do this tomorrow. Now I'm in emergency surgery the next day. And you got to cut me open, all these things. I've never even had surgery. So this was probably the most daunting but exciting thing at the same time, because I'm like, all right, this is one step to getting better, right? So once we get into my room, I get settled. It was 8 hours later. I decided, me being who I am, I'm going to sit here for the rest of the night. I'm going to research what this is and how this works and what I need to do to get better. Right. So I probably spent 5 hours, so I couldn't sleep anyhow. And they had me on some pain meds, and I just chilled and I just soaked it in. I thought through it all. One thing I always do, I'll give you guys this while I'm in this part of it. I'm a big believer in facing what you got to deal with. If you don't walk through it and deal with it, it's going to haunt you forever. And then one thing will pile on, another thing will pile on. And before you know it, you got all this baggage and stuff you can't get rid of. So me facing it and dealing with it at the time by myself was a big chance for me to say, okay, I can absorb this, respect it for what it is. And when I go to surgery tomorrow, I get my new chance to start over because I'm repaired now. If I'm not repaired, that means I can't do anything. So I took that in. My surgeon was one of the top surgeons in the country. I got lucky. He was just happened to be down there. He gets international people coming in for them to get work on. He's very well known for doing great surgeries for knees. And he even told me, he was like, dude, you don't see this. This is not something, I've been doing this for over 20 years. You don't see this very often. And he says, if anybody's a perfect candidate to get through it, it's you. And I said, why do you say that? And he was like, well, you have a background of being able to take a lot of self-torture, so to speak. And he knew, from bodybuilding. So I was like, all right, well, I'll take it. That right there, that moment, talking to the doctor and him giving me that affirmation was enough for me to say, if he can believe I can do it, I'm going to do it, period. But I will say this. They did tell me that most people never walk again. They'll stay in a wheelchair or they'll be on some kind of walking apparatus to help them because the atrophy that your legs go through, they don't get nerve function back. A lot of people don't have the mental fortitude to go for as long as it is. It's a 15 to 18 month recovery after surgery. Wow. So most people get 3 or 4 months and they're toast. I've been in rehab for 10 months now, still going, still working on a lot of things. I say I'm like 70, 75% there. So, looking at the journey from where it started and where it is now, I'm very grateful. I don't have to walk with anything. I walk by myself. And I just keep pushing forward every day. So.
Yo, that is a beastly ass photo. Can you show that again, Sammy? Sorry, that was a beastly ass photo.
I mean, and how far into your journey were you out in the driveway doing ropes?
Yeah, I was doing that. That was a video I did. That was 9 or 10 weeks post-op. Yeah, and
9 or 10 weeks. Wow.
Being in those braces, that was as much as I could bend my knees. They did a gradual process, and I had to work from 10 degrees, 15, 20, so on and so on. So when I have the braces on, it keeps my legs from over bending so I don't pull the sutures or anything like that.
Right.
So that in itself was, I'll be honest, that was the hardest part. When I got home and I was like, all right, we're back. We drove home from South Florida. I was in the back seat, my legs straight out in the back seat for 4.5 hours getting here.
Oh, God.
I get home, we get settled in, and my spot was on the couch, on the chase on our couch. And I knew once I sat there, that was it, because I couldn't move on my own. And the only way I could get around was with my wheelchair. So we set up shop. My wife and kids slept down on the floor on a futon mattress right next to me. That way she could keep an eye on me, and they wanted to be next to me. The kids hated the whole thing. So we kind of set up and made this whole thing out. We watch movies, we listen to music at night. That became our bedroom, and our house is 2 stories. So I couldn't go upstairs.
Right.
My room's upstairs. So therefore I was downstairs for 3.5 months, just living on the couch. We ended up getting a twin bed and putting that in. That was a way to give me a little more comfort. But with the legs straight out, man, I sat 2 weeks with my legs locked in these braces and could not move them. And I had some rough nights. I had some rough days, some rough nights. I cried a lot. I was upset. I felt sorry for myself. But I always kept in my mind that this is just a matter of time. Just take it one day at a time. If I take it one day at a time, I'll be okay, right? So we get to the 2-week mark, and it's time to start physical therapy. So I go to my first session of physical therapy. It was on a Thursday. Friday morning, I wake up and I have this excruciating pain in my leg behind my calf. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, maybe we overdid it yesterday because we haven't done anything. Who knows? Well, it lingered to Saturday, and the pain just stayed the same, ended up getting a little worse. My leg was starting to swell, so we were like, something's up. So my wife went to, she had a doctor's appointment on Monday morning, and she happened to ask our doctor, like, hey, is this something we should be concerned about? He's dealing with this pain, blah, blah, blah. She goes, you need to get to the emergency room, and you guys got to get an ultrasound ASAP. This sounds like a blood clot. So I'm like, oh, great. So now we go in, get an ultrasound, and I had a blood clot from the top of my groin all the way down to my ankle. And it was solid. Like, this thing was fully, like you saw in the ultrasound, there's no room. And I was like, this killed me. So at this point, it's get to the next place. We spent all day long driving around, having to go to appointments. I was in so much pain in this wheelchair. I was tired. I was cranky. I was crying. I just couldn't handle. I did everything I could to handle it, and my wife was right there with me, just holding my hand. It's gonna be okay.
She was handling it. She was.
Yeah, yeah. Listen. She's a trooper, man. Like, without her, I wouldn't have been able to get through this for sure. So I'm very thankful for that, and I'm in debt for a long time. But you know, so we got through that day. I ended up on Eliquis, which is a blood thinner, and try to let this thing get control and bring it all in. So I ended up on that for I think 6 months. Yeah. And obviously it got better, and I was able to keep working through everything. But we went back and got the blood clot looked at, and sure enough, it had dissipated and, moved itself out. And once I started moving, it was going to alleviate itself some more anyhow. So, but your legs are straight out, and you can't move, can't put any weight on, there's no blood flow. What are you going to do? And a lot of people get it with one leg. So let alone got both legs. I was destined for something. So anyhow, once we got past that, then it was full speed ahead, and I've just been on blinders on ever since then.
Good. Wow. So I would imagine that you are recovering at a speed much quicker than they have ever seen at your PT.
Absolutely. They're mind blown. They're like, who are you?
Yeah.
I just told them, I said, I just don't back down from things, But at the end of the day, I will say this: my legs at the time were 28 inches around, so I had a lot to sacrifice where most people don't. So by the time we got ready to start moving bending my knees, we took the braces off, and my legs were down to 14 inches. So I lost half of the leg size that I already had.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was your upper body though? Was it still yoked, or how did you look?
No, I deflated a lot, man. Like, cause I could only work out so much, like in the wheelchair. Right. So I had dumbbells and bands, and I was doing the ropes and stuff. Right. But I still had shape to me. You can still tell I worked out. So I was grateful for that, because I couldn't handle much more than the legs,
Yeah. I get it.
You're like a shell of yourself. So it's weird. Yeah. But they told me that because I had this muscle mass and my legs atrophied to that point, let's just say my legs were 14 inches to begin with, and they would have been down to 7.
Exactly.
And that's that whole thing where the nerves stop working. You know, you got to shock the legs to get them back moving. You can't hold your own body weight up, all these things. So I got to skip all that. So I advanced myself like 3 or 4 months just by having the muscle mass that was left over to get me back going.
Nice.
So, yeah.
There has to be some benefit from all these years of hard work and training, right? Like,
absolutely. I you know, the main thing is with all of this, the mindset, we talked about this a little bit, but the mindset is everything. Because physically, you know, if you do put the pieces together, you can put yourself back together. Like, you just got to get the movements done, whatever. But it's the day-to-day of doing it on your own and making sure you're doing all the things that physical therapy is telling you to do. And being used to having a training regimen was very helpful because I was eager to get back to training. Where a lot of people don't have these things, so they don't even know what it's like to say, okay, I got to put myself in a position to push myself. They don't find enjoyment in that. So they only do what they do at physical therapy, and then when they get home, that's it. So for me, you know, it was go twice a week, and then when you're at home, I want you to do these things. And I sat there and did them endlessly, all day, every day. I have nothing else to do, so why not, right?
Right.
And I posted a few videos of some different things on my social media, and one of them that was a big, in my story, was a big hit. I had to put my feet on the floor. So, you know, grounding and putting your feet on the ground is like a big thing as a person.
Right.
And when you can't put your feet flat on the ground, it starts to mess with you. So by the time I get, you know, 2 weeks in and I can't, or 3 weeks in, whatever it was, I couldn't put my feet on the floor. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I don't think y'all understand, but my feet are dry and crusty and I can't get any sensation there. So that was really starting to bug me. So I was laying in my bed and it dawned on me and I just put my feet on the wall. The best feeling of all time, bar none. I don't care what kind of poop you gotta take. I don't get nothing. Nothing matches that sensation of going, oh, this is amazing.
How crazy it is, right? When you go through such a drastic, adverse situation where then it makes you appreciate something so abysmal, what you would think is abysmal and small, as just putting your feet on.
That's right.
Like, can you go over like any of the biggest lessons you learned during this time of recovery, like training per se? Like, did your view of bodybuilding or your body or the awareness of it, did that change throughout this process?
Yes and no. I would say the beginning was probably the hardest part of swallowing it and figuring out where to go, because I knew my day-to-day was changing, and the gym has always been a great like outlet. Anybody that trains knows, like, you go to the gym, that's your time for yourself, that's your space, you feel good, you get the pump, you get the whole 9 endorphins going. And when you don't have that opportunity, it really throws you for a loop. So the only way I could really figure out how to mimic some of this stuff was go back to the meal plan. I have control of that.
Yes.
So I don't mind dieting. That's not a thing to me. If I need to do what I got to do, I just flip the switch and go. So I knew I was going to be sitting. So if I ate too much, I was going to gain weight. I didn't want unwanted weight. So I was like, I don't need that. So I said, let me dial in this and control this for now. And so we did that. So I would, I'd eat my meals throughout the day, small, and I kept my energy, but I also knew that would feed the process with nutrient-wise to recover faster. And so that helped me out a whole lot. That really showed me even more importance to how much food does in the regimen of having food in place, whether you're a bodybuilder or not. It's just knowing that this gives me structure now. This gives me purpose every day, since I can't get up and go do anything. And there are other things that kind of happened within that, like, not being able to go and take a shower, not being able to go and sit on the toilet and go to the bathroom. Like, these things make you realize how good you have it. And where you can find room to continue to progress within in the situation you're in. So the other side of that was then saying, okay, let's get the bands out. Working my physical therapist, I'm like, what can I do? What can't I do? And he would give me, guidelines, and I'll go home and work within those parameters. And so even when I got back on my feet, it was 7 weeks later, I got out of the wheelchair, and uh, the exercises I was doing at physical therapy, some of them I could do at home. So I'd get out of my chair, sit on a box, and work on standing up from a box, a 36-inch box. It wasn't even that far, but it was very difficult. So all those things led me to this point of, like, from being a trainer and a competitor, saying, I'm just going to use all this and see where it takes me, because I will have a client that's similar to this at some point. I will have somebody that reaches out to me and says, how do I do this? Or how do I make this work for me?
Yeah.
So I made sure and took notes of all that, and took video footage of things. And believe it or not, I've been able to help quite a few people, because people have had injuries since I've had mine, whether it's the same or similar or different body part. And they're like, what do I do? How do you deal with this every day? How do you not function? And I'm able to say, well, this is what I did. This is what I believe, blah, blah, blah. And so many of those people now are thriving. And they're surpassed me, because their injuries weren't as severe.
Right.
But for what they've needed, they've now surpassed the hard part for them, and they're good. And they look at me and they're like, bro, you're still going. I'm like, what else am I going to do? So now they're lifting me up. So it comes full circle.
Yeah. Wow. I honestly, myself as an athlete, I can relate to a few of the things that you hit on. But yeah, we are so ahead of the curve as athletes, as bodybuilders, being educated about, nutrition, how to move the body. I had my own illness that I had to overcome, and I wholeheartedly believe that if I didn't have the knowledge that I had to, like you said, to control what I could, it could have been so much more severe in the end. But, like, inflammation was a huge, huge thing for me. And I was able to control that through a lot of different things that I have knowledge of, where I was thinking to myself, there's so many people out there that wouldn't know to apply these different methods or these different supplements or just different things. And I only imagine the amount of pain that they were in. So you're right. Like, for that, we are grateful, right? The things that this sport has given us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Granted, those aren't the ways we necessarily wanted to use them, but thank goodness that they were there.
But they pay off. Yeah, they pay off. It's tools in your back pocket you never thought you'd use. I'll tell you this: when my wife had Lyme disease, and she had some breast implant illness and all that stuff all around the same time. This was back in 2014, going into 15, and
I would love to talk to her about that one day. By the way.
Yeah,
because she was also, just so the viewers know, she was also a kick-ass bodybuilder as well.
Yeah, she was a IFBB figure pro.
Yes.
And she was very successful, and that's what took her out of the game. This illness came in, and a lot of people don't really know the ins and outs of Lyme disease, but Lyme disease is very, very invasive. It attacks your muscles, it attacks your nervous system, so you get a lot of aches and pains, a lot of crazy knots in your muscles that you can't even think about rubbing out. Tons of inflammation, like the whole body inflammation, all these things. So I told her, when we figured out what was going on with our doctor, I said, bodybuilding is what this was for. I said, you went through this journey of bodybuilding with me because you didn't know about it before me. Right. And you went through all this to learn how to move when it came to figuring this out. And so when you got sick, which, long story, back before we even met, she already had issues in her past with this thing. She just didn't know it was Lyme disease until it reared its head the way it did, and we had the right doctor. But she had gone to specialists long before that numerous times, and nobody could give her the answer. They just put her on a med or something like that. And me being who I am, I was like, nah, something else is up. So that's when we did this, got this whole process kind of worked out. And so when we can, when you talk to her, you can go more in depth. But when we got with our doctor, and we got the whole process laid out, and we did everything herbally, naturally as possible, and her mindset was like, listen, if you guys are gonna do this, you have to diet like none other. And I was like, okay, that's easy. And she goes, what do you mean that's easy? I said, well, that's kind of what we do for a living, so
Right.
it will be fine. You
Right.
know
You're
what I
not
mean?
the
So
typical patient.
no. So she's like, no, that means no carbs, no sweets, no nothing. I was like, perfect. We can do that.
Got this.
We just did that last year. You know what I mean? So I got home and I said I constructed everything and we both went on the same diet and we literally ate basically a basic keto diet. We ate like 10, 12, 10, 11 items
Yeah.
for 8 months
Wow.
and we put this thing in remission.
Nice.
So it was a battle and a half.
Congrats. Good. I'm
Battle and a
glad
half.
to hear that.
Yeah, so that's the same thing. That's where those kind of mindsets come from, and we've been through some stuff, so we kind of knew like, all right, we're here with this. Let's figure out how to maneuver with this. So, but she's doing much better these days.
That's awesome. That's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you guys sound like you guys have an amazing support system. Seriously, I'm like very happy for you, and thank you for sharing that. Seriously, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, here, listen, I'll tell you, man. The thing about her and I is that, and I'm gonna go a little deep here. I don't know if you care, but I'm very much open in sharing my life things these days because it needs to be heard, and a lot of people can be helped with this. But when I met her, she kind of got placed in my life in an interesting time. So in '07 and '08, '07 I lost my dad to suicide, and then 8 months later I lost my mom to a battle of cancer. So I was 24 and then turned 25 in the process, all within that time frame. So 8 months later, 8 months of time frame, a lot shattered my whole world, and I didn't know where to go and what I was gonna do. And I ended up meeting her after my first bodybuilding show, and I wasn't really ready to settle down or do anything. I was like, I'm not getting married. I'm just gonna live my life. I'm gonna go bodybuild and compete and travel the world, and that's gonna be it. Because when you don't have your parents anymore, you feel like you're just kind of by yourself. And I had an older sister, but she's 10 years older than me, which she just passed away in 2021. So that was just like so much. So when she came to my life, we were hanging out and talking and getting to know each other. And I found out her birthday was the day before the death anniversary of my mom. And I was like, okay, this is meant to be because this has got to be something to do with erasing that date and that memory in my head. And sure enough, we've been like this ever since. And that was 14 years ago. So those type of situations, I think, put you in a different place. She never got to meet them, but she's like, I feel like I know them because of you. And we helped each other. She stood by my side with all the ups and downs I had during that time. And I used to tell her, like, you don't got to put up my crap. And she was like, no, like, it's okay. Like, you're going through a lot, whatever. So then she went through her stuff, and then I went through my stuff again. So we're here. We got our kids, and, we're live and thriving. So we take life very easy at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? I DJ Ruckus, that's what I'm gonna call you. I did tell you that we do a segue that Alan has his own little spot on the show, and I think this might actually be a good spot. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, it's funny. I've had such an amazing conversation. I didn't realize we were this far into the show right now. I was like, Gary, let me hear more about this. Damn, like, sir, this has been one of my favorite interviews for sure, man. I really do.
Oh man, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah. I also tell that to other people too, so it's okay. No, I'm kidding.
Offer glare. Yeah.
No, I also, and I do want to add that you have 3 beautiful little girls now. Like, you did mention about your sister passing and your family grew by 1. So that has to be something very special for you and your wife as well, to have the ability to be able to open your house and, your hearts.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful.
Bringing my niece home was a no-brainer. Like, as soon as I caught wind of what had happened, I went straight to get her. I was like, okay, this is what we got to do. And I honestly tell you, as much as I've been through, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life was get down on my knees and tell her at 9 years old that Mom was gone.
Yeah.
It rocked me to the core for 20 minutes. But at the same time, I like, you got to come home with us. You're going to live with us now. And luckily we had her 5 weeks over the summer in a row. So this was like 4 weeks later when she came to pick her up and everything happened. It was like 4 weeks later. So when she came back to our house, she walked in like she never left. So there was some comfort there.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what she needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alan K, are we ready to do your segment?
I guess we're ready. This is a perfect segue. Oh my God. Yeah, this really is.
I know. All right, here we go.
What's going on, guys? And welcome back to the Subculture Live Shift of the Week. For those of you guys who are regularly tuned into the show, you guys would know that I was gone last week. And to be kind of what we talked about on the show earlier, my grandmother passed away 2 weeks ago. And I'll be really honest, this segment, I was trying to think of the usual things, social media, programming, culture. But I'd be doing a genuine disservice to one of my biggest fans, one of my biggest support groups, one of the biggest influences in my life, to not at least talk about her. When I started getting into journaling, and she'd be the person who kind of talked to me about my Facebook posts and how much you loved them and how much I should get on a platform to speak. And she's a lot of the reason why. So I actually wanted to take this moment to share the biggest lesson that I learned from her. Now, when it comes to my grandmother, I have quite a few cousins, right? But the one thing that she did for all of us is that she would, take us all the way to these birthday dinners for our birthdays. But what's unique about them and what she always did was she always made it special. She always made it feel like that we were her only grandchild at that time. And she made this emphasis and this power. She had this power of making you feel like you're the most important person in the world. And there's so many instances in my life where she inspired those moments. She's behind them. But the biggest lesson came from me during the toughest and most challenging time in my life. So as you guys know, I served in the Navy. I was in the Navy for 13 years. I joined when I was 19. And right after I joined, I got married, had a kid, and literally within a year, went from living an adolescent life in Los Angeles to all of a sudden being married, being a father in Goose Creek, South Carolina, in the middle of Navy Nuclear Power School. As you can imagine, that was a very challenging time. And it's interesting because at the time, the Navy slogan was accelerate your life. And I guess I took that as a challenge. Fast forward 4 years later, and I'm at a huge pivotal point in my career. I had worked my ass off throughout the pipeline to have earned a scholarship to be a Navy nuclear officer. I was studying chemical engineering in University of New Mexico, and I had all the onslaughts to have the most professional, decorated resume that you could pretty much ask. But at that same time, I was going through one of my worst personal moments. I was going through a divorce, having fights with my now ex-wife, having fights with my parents, having the whole 9 yards of things. It's crazy on how many people are affected by a thing such as divorce and amongst the child custody things. During that time, and we were all fighting, it just seemed like the only thing people cared about was telling me what they thought I was doing wrong, and me trying to protect myself from that, and me telling them what they did was wrong, and it's just a whole everything. But the one person in my life that didn't tell me what I was doing wrong, that gave me the space and understood that I was just a human being going through things, was my grandmother. I might get a little choked up. But the biggest thing that she ever taught me, the biggest thing that she ever did for me was show me the value of just being there. Because when we argue with our family, when we argue with loved ones, very rarely is it about us being right. Very rarely is it about us correcting them and showing them what they're doing wrong. more of what it is than anything else is that we just want to be heard. We want to be accepted. And most of all, we want to be acknowledged. And it was because of my grandmother's display of compassion, empathy, and just loving me for me that got me through that hard time. And why to this day I show up for people in that manner and try to, it's not always easy. It's not always the, like I said, the most easy thing to do is just to kind of turn the other cheek and kind of see things from outside of your perspective. But my grandmother did that. And what I wanted to share with you guys is just this. You know, today's day and world, I see so much fighting, so much arguing, so much all this outlash of animus and just pain and hurt. And at the end of the day, some people, that's just all they want. They just want to be acknowledged for who they are. They want to be given the space. Like, yeah, you know what? We do make mistakes. We do make, like I said, mistakes. Sorry, I'm just getting into this, but we make mistakes. We have challenges. We're still learning at this time, and we only know what we know. And so the next time, you know, you find yourself judging someone, or the next time you find yourself arguing, really ask yourself, what are the premises that you're arguing about? And is it really that they want to be corrected, or is it that they just want to be the space and be acknowledged for who they are? And for that, I want to thank my grandma Jean for that. And back to you, Sammy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that, Alan. That's a very powerful message for sure.
Thank
And
you.
my
That was
condolences.
solid. That
Yeah.
was solid, man. It's good to hear you took those notes from that and kept moving. I think that's the ticket.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot of what you said, man. You kind of just accept it for what it is, and I feel like, you know, when you go through enough adverse situations, and you kind of have to sit there like, man, I can either let this thing consume me, I can have it define me, or I can define it
Yeah.
and make myself a better version in lieu of it. And you know, I was just telling Sammy about this too. This is my first experience of being that person in the family that people actually go to grieve, that people actually go to vent, and you know, it's that's it, you know. But you know what we can do, especially when we lose someone, is live through them and continue to share what we did learn. And you know, especially like I said, today's day and age where it's so challenging and it's cancel culture this, and
Yeah.
it's almost like we find reasons to
Have,
dismiss other people from our lives. And
yeah. It's everyone's. It's easy to find a problem. It's easy to make things, a problem. And I align with the same idea of like, man, it's keeping the tools alive that you get from those people once they pass away, and you keep using them, and you carried on. I mean, I live in the same town I grew up in where my parents were. So a lot of people that see me, they tell me like, man, you're just like your dad, or you're like your mom in this way, or whatever. So the fact that I can keep that is priceless to me, And I agree with the same thing about what's worth arguing about. When you've dealt with enough like that, you can easily say like, this isn't even worth having a conversation over. So with the current cancel culture and a lot of things that are going on, I'm like, really, you guys want to argue about this right now? There's plenty of
yeah,
other things to worry about. Like, chill, So I'm with you. Respect to that, man.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So wow, this episode has ended much heavier than I anticipated, but I think I appreciate you guys sharing these emotions with everybody and with myself. So
Sure.
yeah, but back to business, DJ Ruckus. We
Yes.
are we are going to be working together come June at the Florida
Yeah.
Pro.
Which I missed last year, so I'm
You
excited to get
did.
there.
I missed you last year because as a live streamer, I know your DJ style. I know how loud you play your music for prejudging. I know what you're doing in the evenings, and this was a different experience for me working with this DJ because he was like full blast the whole time, and I was just like, oh no, no.
Yeah, and that
So
goes back to the whole thing of being a competitor.
yeah, Right, right. Prejudging, it needs to be a little bit more serious. I mean, that's when they're getting judged. It's not a party. It needs to be fun, it needs to be light, but the music doesn't need to be like blasting the whole time. But with that said, I did switch headsets.
I noticed, yeah.
So as your professional opinion, how do I sound right now?
You sound great. You're clear.
Because I was thinking about my switching my setup. I usually use these. I have great pod mics that I use for my live streams, but I am going to invest, I think, in the headsets. And the main reason why is you'd be shocked at how many people do not know how to talk into a microphone. I get this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, right here. And I can't, we're live. So there's nothing I can do. I can't do anything in post edit if I miss audio. It's just, it really degrades like the quality of my product. So I think this will solve it because they can do whatever they need. They can move, they can stand up, they can do whatever they want, and I'm going to catch every syllable.
See, this is the growth I'm talking about. You're doing it right here live, so everyone that can see. These are the things. You start from nothing, and you get to this point. You're like, I got these mics, but people can't talk to them, so I'm gonna go figure out how to. I got these. Now we win the battle. You know what I mean?
Well, so. and it's been a progression. So first year, this was the mic stand. Second year, this was the mic stand. I thought, well, if I get a taller mic stand, they'll talk directly into it.
Yeah.
Still could not get my commentators to talk directly into
the mic. And that's probably $1,000 right there.
Oh, people, it's anytime we have a hobby like this, we just start collecting. You
just go. I have probably 5 different microphone setups that I use for events, depending on what I'm doing.
Yeah. So our graveyard is probably bigger than most people's, like, right?
I don't use that anymore, but it's still on the shelf,
Yeah. Can't get rid of it. I can't.
I guess I got to upgrade my microphone if I want to join this cool conversation, guys. So I'm on my first microphone, like, well, guys, I'm on my first microphone, all right? Jeez, and now I'm on my AirPods because I couldn't even get this thing working today. Jeez,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they're called, AirPod Pros, all right? Because I'm a professional, damn it.
Well, Alan... The goal, Alan, would be to one day get you to one of my events so that you can be part of the live streams, part of the live setup, and kind of see what it's all about. And with that said, I am going to be taking over your soundboard, if that's okay with you, DJ Ruckus. Do you think there would be a channel that I could steal from you so that I can pipe in the MC?
Absolutely. Yeah, yes. I almost every show now that someone's tapping into it. So
nice.
I have I think 10 channel mixer, so I got plenty of room. Yep.
Sweet. So I'll pack an extra XLR cable, and I told Daryl that today because we were talking about the interview, and I'm like, ooh, I'm just gonna ask him live on the show.
Hey, right? You know what I mean? That's the best way to do it. You get a direct answer, and I'm sure he's listening, so he'll just say right on.
Yeah. So did you see I just moved the microphone? Did you see I just did that? Because it's
yes, your habit.
It's habit. It's such a habit now. Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. That's so funny. But yeah, I am excited to work with you again in June. And, I've been looking over some of the lineup of athletes that are coming in, and it's just going to be such a high quality show. And I have a big announcement that I'm going to be making tomorrow or Friday. And you're probably going to get some DMs from me because I have some, you're going to be kind of part of this announcement. Has to do a little bit with the after party. So... yeah, I'll be giving you all the details.
Party?
The Florida Pro. The Florida Pro, yeah. There's an after party.
They go hard from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
There's a bar, food, dance floor, DJ.
Listen, let me tell you how excited I was about doing this last year. And it was because it was such a new thing, and me and Daryl had talked about this for months and been working on it.
Yeah.
And listen, I probably set one thing I will say that made me happy was that he still pushed forward and had athletes come to me for their music. Yeah. So I sat there on my computer once things kind of got settled. So probably I'd say all of May, I sat there week in, week out, editing music for people for the show.
Nice.
And I probably did 40 different competitors. So it kept me involved, and I was glad to give them something to go with. And I saw bits and pieces of the show through your live broadcast. So, it worked out.
But that's something to mention for anybody that is watching, that you do those custom edits for
Yes.
posing routines.
Yes. And I do them for every division. And in the other organizations, NGA and different things, you guys do what's called a T-walk. So
not anymore. Not at Daryl's show. I convinced him to get rid of it. It is tragic. I said it's outdated. Daryl, please do me a solid. I promise if you do this, people will follow.
That's great, because that was something that I battled with, because the timing was different. Yeah, and it's like, all right, well, how are we gonna set this up? Because I just walk out on stage, so every competitor has music and all this stuff. So it was really kind of tough for me to even juggle and play with, because I wasn't used to that.
Right.
Well, now it turns into, all right, well, I do this division and I need this amount of time on my music, whatever. So I get to sit and now customize these things, whether it's one song and I'm editing that one song, or I got multiple songs. Mic down, we got another one right there. You're good.
All right, they're not completely Sammy-proof.
We ran into a problem.
They're not completely Sammy-proof.
Well, a new situation presents new opportunities to grow. That's for sure. Yeah.
No Italians at the commentator table.
Yeah. Oh my god! All right, so I'm gonna go against the grain here and tell you guys I actually love the T-walk.
Okay, well, not everybody's moonwalking, Alan. Not everybody's up there moonwalking. Okay.
Okay, I have no rebuttal for that. I'm done. I have no rebuttal for that. You're right. I guess not.
Yeah, you have runway for that, huh?
Right. But see, look, Gary knows how to dance. Look, this is your opportunity to have a little personality, not make everything about posing.
Yeah.
For someone who's new to the industry, who has a rhetoric about bodybuilding being just what we were talking about earlier, pop locking, except in a terrible way, not in a romantic way. Bad. Right. And there's the stereotype of bodybuilding competitions is just flexing and try to be whatever. So if you could show a little bit, I remember a long time ago, I think Kai Green did a whole robot or something for his thing. That was badass. Yeah. And if we could encourage people to show a little bit of individuality during these T-walks instead of being like everybody else, then it'll still
be there. It'll still be there. Yeah. You're just the thing that makes Alan the things. I'm glad you said that because I get both of these. But my argument is there's still going to be a box. You could still do quite a bit in a small 2-3 foot space. But the thing about it is, it's the longevity of that experience is going to live on forever. We're both vendors, we are both working the show. Our job is to make sure that the athletes have the best experience that they can have. Same with the photographer. And with this being centrally located in the center of the stage, there's going to be better pictures, there's going to be better video, better timing of the music. The whole production falls into place to live on forever. When I have athletes running around, because you might not have done this, but the women tend to run. And you've probably seen this DJing at natural shows. They run from corner to corner, and it doesn't look good. It's very hard for the photographer to get any decent photos. Can you imagine if they took that same amount of time and stayed in the center of the stage? The photographer would have at least 20 to 30 more quality photos for that athlete to have for the rest of their, life. So my thing is about the production value and creating content, right? Everything now is about creating content, and we're going to be able to produce better quality content for these athletes to market themselves, to market their businesses, to market the shows, the organizations, natural bodybuilding as a whole. Yeah. That's where I look at it from.
Well, yeah, you're totally right. I mean, I come from the NPC, so we have you walk out and you have the center of the stage. You can move around the stage a bit, but you kind of want to stay in that view of where the camera is so you can get good shots. And the lighting is best in certain spots in that middle area of the stage. So it also gives me now on the other side, DJing, kind of knowing, like, do you want to start your music in the box in the center of the stage, or do you want to start it when you're walking on?
Right.
So that gives me a chance to set up things a little bit differently. And the competitor and I are already on the same page before they even get there. That gives them so much confidence to know that he's going to drop this when I get to the center of the stage. Or as soon as I'm ready to walk off, and I look at them. And so as they get ready to step off, they're looking at me and they're like, and I just let the record go. And then boom, everything's in sync. But with the T-walk, it makes it tough because you may have someone over here, and then they're like, oh, I got to get to the other side of the stage before I run out of time. Then they're back over here. And then next thing I know, I'm like, okay, are you leaving the stage? Or are you doing something else here? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that gives a little more structure to it.
For sure. Does that make sense, Alan?
It does. It does. I'm still on it. Hey, I feel like it's a good opportunity for you to not flex like everybody else, but I mean that might just be me.
I'll say this. You know? I think and I agree with you there. The creativity can still be there. Like my posing routines, you know, I still hit shots, but it's the way I get into my shots, the way I transition, and the way I use the music to transition. A lot of times people put music on, and they don't post the music. So it's the same way you dance. Like, let the music tell the story. If it's slow, fast, whatever, when you get out there, if your routine is going to be based off of this, then you need to make sure you're hitting on the sounds that are within the music, but at the same time, you're getting a chance to transition and give the crowd value, because the crowd hears the music and they see you hit things and they go, oh. So it's like theatrics kind of. So at the same time, if you want to do something that's creative and you say, you know what, I'm going to do the worm. Well, make sure that worm is in sync so it looks good. You're not just doing the worm out of nowhere and it's like, where did that come from? You know what I mean? So.
On the same token, if I see a worm do anything, that's badass at a bodybuilding competition.
The reason I brought this up, so let me tell you this. So at the Arnold Classic this weekend, Urs, which is a competitor, a men's physique or classic physique competitor from the UK, and he's known for posing, but he used to be a breakdancer back in the day. So I've seen him do several guest posing where he's breaking, he wears a bear costume and he's dancing around the bear costume, whatever. Well, he busted the worm out at the Arnold Classic, and I was like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can still do cool things and have the crowd have that wow factor, and you get back up and you still hit a nice shot or a classic shot, and everybody wins. So.
Right. And Alan, and let's be fair. It may take a show or two, or but the athletes they'll find their way to throw their personality in there. I already know, I can already think of a handful of pros that I already know are signed up for the Florida Pro that are on the drawing board, finding ways to make themselves stand out and to have some fun on stage. And they're just going to have so much better quality pictures and content. Yeah.
And that's going to help too when they start coming to me in the next month or two for music. Then I already know now what their vision and what their space is going to be like on stage. So when I go to say, okay, well, you want these 3 songs put together, where do you think your routine is going to land you at this point in time? Are you going to start at the end or the entrance of the stage? You're going to start in the middle. So if I know they're going to start in the middle, then I can drop the music a certain way. Or if they're walking on, then I can ease into their main impact before they hit the center of the stage.
Right, because they can walk to the center of the stage, they're still in the center, and then walk forward. So you have a lot of play from that center of the stage to the box. So the girls can do little cha-chas or whatever girls like to do. I don't know. I'm not that artistic and creative, but come to the center box, and then the transitions are going to be out of this world. People are going to be throwing in all kinds of extra flair, moving from pose to pose. That's going to be where their personality shines.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Alan, you'll get to watch it live.
I get to watch the cha-chas.
Yeah. I don't know. Some of them do little moves and shimmies. I was just all business when I was on stage.
Yeah. You come from a different era, so you know.
But yeah, no, this was fun. But I am excited to work with you at that event, the Florida Pro, that's coming up in June. And stay tuned this week for my announcement. You're gonna you're going to love it. You're going to just be like, and you're going to understand why you're going to be kind of part of it. So,
yeah.
but anyway, it's a team. You know, when you're at an event like that, that's why it's amazing when you work with the same people every year. Like, I know the photographer that's going to be there. I know you're going to be there. And we all just have like this synergy, and we all get along, and we all work well together. And as the event grows, you know, the relationships and the creativity grows with us. And it's just, that's what I love. And
I'm the same. Like, a lot of the other shows I do, I've been doing for years now. So being in sync with the promoters and knowing what they like, and bringing, you know, certain values to the table as far as a DJ, it helps. And it helps people to understand and appreciate having the DJ. Because when I was out, there's quite a few shows that couldn't pick up a DJ in time.
Yeah.
So they had to go back to the old way, and people were like, where's the DJ? So that kind of changed some things. But I mean, even now, like I have a show coming up in October that's a newer show up in the Panhandle.
Okay.
And it's a rock show.
Cool.
So now I get to go into this whole other realm of creating music for a rock show, and it's all rock based. Some of it will be remixes of rock things that I've created or I've gotten from other DJs and things like that. So when you can start blending that kind of stuff and it's exciting and it fits the theme of the show, it makes it so much better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you, Alan, for co-hosting and for your segment and always taking the time to be on here. And thank you, Gary, for coming on. You're a fun guest, and there's a lot to you. You know, I think when people and as you were telling us kind of like your journey through school and college and to kind of where you are now, I can't imagine the looks that you have gotten in some of the, because you're not like a band nerd. So I can't imagine, you know, like, not that I'm stereotyping, but I can't imagine you on the drum line at UF and people not being like, dude, like this guy, because you're pretty tall too, aren't you?
I'm like 5'10".
All right, okay. To me, you're a giant.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but I can't imagine through all those experiences, standing out, just being the bodybuilder, being the guy that's a little different in the room.
That's right, all the time. And I mean, people used to always say you're the most jacked DJ I've ever seen. You know? I get to the shows now, and people are like, "Oh, you're the bodybuilding DJ," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take it."
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for watching. I'm going to chop this up because there was definitely some good little bits, and I always like to do a director's cut where I take a little 2-minute segments, and we'll see what I pull out of here. But this was really good talk tonight. I just had fun, and like I said, I didn't even make any notes because I knew we would all just mash, and this would go where it needed to go.
Yeah, no, I had a great time. I appreciate you having me, and you know, anytime you want to do anything else, let me know. We'll hang out at the show, so I may pop in on there too. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you'll have a direct line to my mixer, so.
That's true. I might have to get a headset too, right?
That's right. I feel like one of those like guys in the pit, like a race car.
WWE or whatever, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, I actually was looking at the WWE. That's what I wanted was the WWE headsets, by the way. And I actually looked into purchasing those, and they were a little. Yeah. So I get this today, and I tell my son, we get it all hooked up. I'm like, this is great. This is what they use at the WWE. And my son looks at me and he goes, "Mom, aren't those wireless?" And I'm like, get out of the room. You're not welcome in here.
Hey, listen, baby steps, right?
Yeah. But, well, you know, if you can do wired over wireless, I'm doing wired every time.
I'm doing wired all day. Well, people don't know this because they don't do these things. But listen, even in my car, like people are like, how come you don't Bluetooth your music? I'm like, the sound quality is totally different. When you hardwire music and you get the wave file, it's way louder. It's way more clarity. The Bluetooth brings everything down. So even in the gym, I wear headphones with a cord. People are like, dude, why don't you just take the cord out and use Bluetooth? And I'm like, I'm tired of telling you all the same story.
You're like, I know music, okay? That's kind of my thing.
So here's the thing, though. I'll give my headphones. I'm like, you tell me this. They're like, whoa, man. There you go.
You're right. Because sometimes I pipe in Bluetooth into here, into my switcher, or into my mixer.
Oh, your board?
And it's different, yeah.
Yeah.
It is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You know what's interesting? Sorry, I know we're wrapping up the story, but this
Yeah,
reminds me of an
course.
interesting experience. So you guys talk about how you guys are more sensitive to sound based on your experiences, right? So one of my old roommates, you guys, the band The Doors. I know it's a classic band, right? But when
Yeah.
Jim Morrison died, my roommate's dad was actually the lead singer of The Doors. He took over, and that kind of started him into his whole music career. And he's actually one of the people that got me to set up my whole sound. He taught me about sound, sound walls and everything.
Perfect
Not
person.
about the trees, right? Sound and everything. But as soon as he showed me all the different, things that go into music, all the different layers of different instruments, my entire paradigm of music and how I hear it is so different. So I'm saying that to say this, as I'm wearing my wireless AirPod Pros right here, I hope I'm still ignorant to the things that you guys are talking about, and I hope my expectations of sound doesn't go up to the point of kind of what I've learned from my roommates.
Oh, it's going to.
I was gonna say she's gonna give you something for your sound stuff. I'm gonna send you a link for some headphones that are wired, and unless you're gonna use a headpiece like she is with the microphone, but you can try these out just to listen on your own and listen to your music separately. You're gonna be like, yeah, I hear everything now.
Yeah.
Did he freeze? No, he froze.
No, wait. I think he's. Oh no.
I think I can't hear.
You can't.
No.
You can't hear us. There you go. And
Bye,
as
guys.
you were, bye.
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 That was fun.
I
Oh
can't hear
man.
anything.
Oh, I don't know what happened. We lost him as we're speaking about headsets. But Gary, have a great night, and I am so glad your recovery is going well. Of course, we're going to attribute that to bodybuilding and just having, the knowledge and, like you said, the extra muscle and all that. But I would love to touch base with your wife one day, because that's the illness. I haven't really spoke about it publicly. I've put a couple little posts here and there, but it's not something I've really dove into because I really felt like I needed someone to dive into it with. And
y'all do great together.
Oh,
she loves to talk, so.
Yeah, and just the idea that she was also in health and fitness, and not only can we talk about the symptoms and everything, but maybe the pressures of why we even did it to begin with, right? And how we feel after. So I think that would be a really beneficial podcast for a lot of the women out there. And the one thing I always say to people, I would never say don't do it. I would say that's a personal choice, but what I can say is if you ever experience this, and this, don't, before you drive yourself crazy for the next 3 years trying to figure out what's gone wrong with you, maybe think this might be why, right? Because she probably was, right. I spent more money in doctors trying to figure out what was wrong with me than I did for any procedure I've ever done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I spent more money trying to figure out what was wrong with me.
And that's kind of the same boat we were in. So, and that's why, again, I think we were brought together. It's like, me having my background, I was able to think differently about it and tap into a different space than most people were able to do. And so that led us to, our doctor where we got our help. So.
Yeah, she's so fortunate because I hear horror stories where women suffer for like 12, 15, 20 years, like their lives are taken away.
Completely. And they have no sign of hope or what. So.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Well, again, this was so much fun. Give your cute little girls kisses for me because they're just so cute. I always look, they're so adorable. I know your house must be full of like little giggles and their little funny jokes and everything. Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
It makes me look forward to come home during the day. So yeah.
Yes. Awesome. All right, I'm gonna run my little outro, and you have a great night.
All right, and if anyone wants music or anything for the show, feel free to inbox me on my Instagram, and we'll get it cracking.
Definitely, and I even posted it on my YouTube, in both of your Instagrams in the comments, so that they can reach out to you. But Daryl's going to start blasting emails for you.
Oh yeah,
so they know where to find you.
I like your style, so
yeah. All right, good night.
All right, good night.